Welcome to Daily Race A at Daytona Oval, and I go from 0 to hero and then back again. First of all, let's start off by changing my livery to my preferred black, green Monster Racing logos. Like it. Now in this particular race I managed to qualify in 7th, and as you can see, just 1/10 of a second covered the top 10 places. Very close racing, also and mainly down to the fact that it's almost a one car series. The meta is the 4GT, everybody's using it. If you're not using the 4GT, you're not going to come anywhere in this race unless you cheat, and it kind of spoils it a little bit. A track like Daytona, you'd like to see a lot of different cars on there. It's just not happening. Polyphony really need to sort out the whole meta thing, and if they're going to do BLP races, then they need to work on getting the BLP to be fair across multiple models. Now as we cross the line and get the race underway, there's one thing you need to keep in mind with this race, and that's don't let the cars in front get away from you. You have to stay within their slipstream. If you lose it, you are not going to catch them back up. That in main is down to the whole meta thing, and especially in this race, having a meta that is so dominant. You have to have the same car and you have to stay in the slipstream. Unless you're lucky enough to get somebody behind bump drafting you and pushing you forwards, there's no way to make up the deficit. All the cars are the same, all the cars have the same top speed, so you have to stay within that 7 to 8 tenths of a second. If you do, you're fine. You can just stay there, sit behind the car in front, and you know you're going to be safe unless you make a mistake. And talking of mistakes, we're just about to see somebody make their first one. And there he goes, the first crash of the race, and that puts us up from 7th into 6th position. And now we're clear of that little incident, it's time to settle down again. So I just tuck in behind number 5, Bestia. But two guys who are in 3rd and 4th are squabbling, and that doesn't help on this track. You need to be smooth. Smooth is fast. They squabble, one guy drops back, and that's me from 6th up to 5th. Still in the slipstream, and we've actually managed to get a little closer to the two guys that are up in 1st and 2nd position. And what you can see now is a great example of how bump drafting works. I push the guy in 4th, he moves forward, pushes the guy in 3rd, then we're all moving forward closer to the leading two. I'm still in the slipstream, so it's pulling me closer now to the guy in 4th again, and we'll do exactly the same. We'll keep bumping each other, we'll keep moving up, and by the time we get to near enough now, about halfway around this bend, all of us, the top 5 cars are all bunched up. Now at this point, I would have just been happy to sit behind this group for the next lap, 2 laps, and then go for it on the last lap, but for some reason Bestie moves across. I think he's maybe trying to get the slipstream from the guy who was in 3rd, but he leaves me the door open and I take position. In fact, I end up taking 2 positions and move up into 3rd. Now at this point, I'm just ready to slipstream and bump draft again, and I think here, this is actually my fault, but I catch Chris there on the quarter panel. I cause him to wobble and he loses speed. Okay, yes, a little naughty there. I still take the place. I could have maybe eased off a second and let him get back in front, but in this race you can't afford to let off. If you drop that top speed, you're going to fall back and everybody's going to come flying past you. So that puts me up into 2nd, and we'll just fast forward through this little bit until we get to about here, when I end up getting a very good slipstream, and for some reason Grosif loses speed. I decide I'm going for the overtake, but hang on, let's have a little look at that again. Well, look at that, Grosif tried to take me out. That was naughty. And that puts me up into 1st place, with Grosif now into 2nd and Dale in 3rd. And if we watch your radar again, we can see that Grosif gets it all kind of wrong now. He goes wide, nearly takes Dale out, ends up taking himself out completely, and then decides to leave altogether. And if we jump forward just a little bit, we can see that Dale, who was in 2nd, gets overtaken by Biff. Now unfortunately, I'd already seen earlier in the race that Biff has caused 1 accident already, so he was not the person I wanted behind me when it came to the last lap and a half of this race. And now I'm watching my radar almost as much as I'm looking ahead. I can see him, he's behind me. I'm thinking, okay, he may go for a bump draft here. We're getting onto the straight, I'm waiting for it, he's catching up, but then he decides to pull out to the side. He's actually going for the overtake. No, he's nudged me, he nudges me again. At this point I'm still looking at the radar, he's up level, and then he starts to get really wild. He's just ram, and he's really going for it. And then unfortunately at this point here, he catches me on the rear quarter, and around I go. It turns out that Biff isn't just a name, it describes his driving style. The only good point here, however, is he also took himself out and is further back than I am. And at this point the only thing to do is line it up, hit that throttle and do what you can. Unfortunately, there goes another place, so I went down from first to third and now to fourth. And as I said earlier on, once you lose speed in this particular race, it's game over, you're just a sitting duck. Here comes another one. Sorry Delta, I don't think I was actually looking at the radar there, mate. Didn't mean to give you a tap, but at least you kept the place and you managed to keep on going. That puts me down to fifth. And that's pretty much how the race ended. There was no speed advantage. I wasn't close enough to go in front to get into his slipstream. The only good point is the cars behind me weren't close enough to me to get into my slipstream. And so, that's pretty much, like I said, how it ended. And I crossed the line in a very sad fifth position. Certainly not where I expected to end up, especially after managing to get to first, but at least Biff finished behind me. Another good point is that these races do not affect your DR or SR ratings, thankfully. As usual, thank you for watching. I would very much appreciate if you could hit those like and subscribe buttons, and stay tuned for more videos. See you soon.